Hey everybody, welcome to your asynchronous lesson, last asynchronous lesson of the year. Hopefully the last asynchronous lesson I will record in my life. I'm going to close up the 70s here. A lot of what you're going to see on these slides are things we've talked about already, just kind of putting them together to tell you this last final story of the transition into the 1980s, which is a very different decade in America, also a decade that we will talk about in class next week. So here we go. From last Friday's video, end of the 60s, we see a lot of division, people choosing sides, a lot of tensions, left versus right, young versus old, urban versus suburban, that kind of stuff. I won't talk about it again here. I talked about it in last week's video. Violence, a lot of those tensions are going to turn into actual physical violence. These tensions, plus an economic recession, plus rising Cold War tensions, plus Nixon and Watergate, plus the rise of movement conservatism, are all going to just sort of end up making the 70s a decade of pretty major change in America. Movement conservatism, we talked about in class, talked about all of this in class. So I'm just going to jump right over to here and say, despite the fact that Nixon and Ford both end their presidencies on low notes because of Watergate, and just because Ford doesn't really have a great presidency. Despite those facts, we are still going to see a growing movement of conservatives who are ready to see the country move in a different direction. Final blow to what we've been calling the Democratic era of government will be Peanut Farmer, turned politician from Georgia, the 39th president of the United States, one of my favorite presidents, Jimmy Carter. Carter is going to run as an outsider, played no part in Vietnam, Watergate, recession. Different blood. That's sort of his whole thing. I'm not part of the establishment. I'm different. You should vote for me. He will try to address the energy crisis, stagflation, and the recession, and fail. Inflation will hit 14%. Goal for inflation is usually about 2, so 14 is bad. Interest rates will near 20%, and then we'll see a new oil embargo in 1979, increasing gas prices. Embargo is just oil. Countries that sell oil to the US will sell less of it. That will raise the price of it. Here's a chart showing you kind of what that looks like. So 79, we'll say like right around here to here, goes up a little bit more. But even if we just look at like 60 cents to around $1.20, that's doubling. It'll be somewhere around like between now and when you graduate high school, gas going from $4 a gallon to $8 a gallon. So pretty major blow to the American economy. Here's a picture of people waiting for gas, long lines at gas stations, people waiting hours to fill up their tanks because there just isn't that much gas. By the end of the 70s, US is overextended. Americans distrust their government as a result of Vietnam and Watergate. Economy is going to enter a recession, high unemployment, inflation, decline in America's status in the world, and then Ford and Carter, Nixon, Ford, and Carter are going to fail to inspire any sense of hope among Americans. And just our last little bit, and we've talked about most of this. This is just sort of for review. 1980, US is losing its place as a top nation, or at least seems to be. Failures in the Cold War, new problems in the Middle East, social protests, counterculture, dividing liberals and conservatives, stagflation, economic recession are getting worse, not better. And then again, Johnson, Nixon, Ford, and Carter left citizens wanting, left citizens in search for optimism, strong leadership, and also more conservative policies. So we'll leave it there. Talk about Reagan next week. 1980s actor turned politician. Well, that's it. I will see you in class.